Hey friends, Father Frank Pavone here, National Director of Priests for Life, joined by Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life, on a very historic day. As you have heard by now, Roe v. Wade apparently has been struck down by the Supreme Court, but it's not yet the official decision, but it was leaked. Janet, this is unprecedented.
Right.
In history. We're going to talk about this, friends. We want you to know what this draft decision says, and we want to comment about what we need to do about it in the coming days. SupremeCourtVictory.com is the website we want you to pay attention to in the coming days. SupremeCourtVictory.com. Janet, this is a day of history.
Well, first of all, Father, it doesn't matter where you are on the abortion issue, okay? But as an American, okay, whether you're pro-abortion or pro-life, as an American, you should be shocked, upset, and furious about this leak.
What happened? Yeah.
Well, what happened? Now, because the whole integrity of our Supreme Court justice system is under attack.
Well, let's review for people that are maybe just hearing this what exactly did happen.
Right.
Okay, this is a document that it's authentic. We can verify that it's authentic. It is a draft of an opinion of the Supreme Court written by Justice Alito. Last night, Politico posted this on their website. Somehow they got it from somebody inside the Supreme Court.
Well, first of all, Father, they have to talk about how horrible that is that they even got it. Because what this means is, okay, and we've already, if you've been listening, Carrie Severino, Laura Ingraham, and the list goes on and on. These personalities who clerked in the court have told us, they've been on the media and have said, when you clerk and work inside the court, there is a absolute that they do not take papers home. They can't even take a flash drive out of the building.
Well,
they can't reveal anything. And what people also have to understand is, Father, is this draft by Alito. Well, we don't know how many times that draft was circulated among the justices and the clerks.
And that's the process, right?
That's the process.
It gets circulated, they comment.
Let's face it. Let's go back. December 1st, they heard the oral arguments.
Right.
About a week later, they voted. They knew where they were going to stand on this decision. And then over the next, it takes months and months.
That's right.
And months
of writing.
Because what they do is they go back and forth and they go back and forth. In fact, if we go back to Roe v. Wade itself, if you remember, Father, that little sentence about viability, that got thrown in at the end.
At the last
minute.
Yes.
So this draft, we don't know. And people might be saying, why is it taking so long to come down with the decision? Well, that's because this draft is not the final version yet.
Right.
We don't know how much more passing around. And because what they do is, like, let's say a clerk from Alito's office will send it over to Kavanaugh or send it to Amy Coney Barrett.
Yeah.
And they'll circle something and add something.
Well, what they're going to do, what they have to decide is, well, first of all, like you said, they take an initial vote. Do I agree? What's the holding that I want to affirm?
Right.
Like, we're going to uphold the Mississippi law. This is about, of course, again, for those that are new to this, about the Mississippi law protecting babies in the womb starting at 15 weeks. Which the court says you can't do, okay? So are you going to uphold that, or are you going to take a different position? Do you want to strike down Roe v. Wade, or do you want to uphold Roe v. Wade? So they decide on what their basic position is. And then when they see the written opinion, they look at it and they say, well, I can sign on to this opinion if you change this or that or the other thing.
Right. So they modify sentences or make additions.
Or what they also going to decide in the process of that is, maybe I want to sign on to it and then write my own what's called a concurring opinion.
Right.
I'm going to write my own document saying I agree, but I want to bring up some other arguments that this document doesn't. And then they do the same thing on the other side with the dissent.
Right.
One justice will write the dissenting opinion, others will sign on to it, but then they might want to write their own dissenting opinion to go along with that. So all of this is why, like you said, it takes months for all this stuff to get written and finalized. Now, in that process, the justices can also change their minds. But it seems to me on a fundamental matter like this, if you've got, as the Politico story verified, already a majority of justices, as in 5, signing on to this, and we'll talk in a minute about exactly what this says, that would be a big deal to change your mind, because it's such a fundamental point. whether or not
Well,
abortion is a constitutional
and the thing is, the
right.
justices themselves, meaning the more conservative ones, have said in just in other things that they don't see a right to abortion. There is no right to abortion in the
Constitution. No,
Constitution.
there isn't.
There isn't. And the other thing too is we know Justice Thomas has gone on record saying that the Supreme Court should get out of being the medical review board. They're sick and tired
yes,
of that.
That's right.
So those points have been already well placed. But the other point I don't think anyone's catching here is Politico. How come nobody is calling them to task for what they've done? Because, like, for example, when it came to the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, they squashed that story. They didn't blast that story. So when they were presented, when this clerk, it's got to be one of the clerks, right?
Well, there's 45 people that have access to this. The 9 justices,
right,
and then 4 clerks assigned to each one of them.
Right.
So you've got a pool of people, 45 in all. Yeah, any one of them could have.
Any one of them, which is totally unethical. If they're a lawyer that is clerking for the justice, they could be disbarred.
Yeah, they're going to be.
They're going to be disbarred. But the question goes back with Politico.
Yeah.
They got this just like they got the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. They sat on that story. So what possessed them to put this out there?
Listen, friends, if you have questions, ask your questions. We'll get to them. It might take a little while for us to get to them, but ask your questions. Now, for example, Donna is asking a very, very good question. Will they still allow abortion in the cases of incest or rape? Donna, the issue here is this, that the court in this decision, this draft decision of Alito, is saying that these policy matters on abortion should be decided by the legislators. So if in your state you can convince your lawmakers to pass a law that does not allow abortion in cases of rape and incest, or if in another state people can convince their lawmakers to include the exceptions of rape and incest, the Supreme Court is saying, as long as they have a reason for their law, this is what's called the rational basis review, then it's constitutional. Right. In other words, abortion has been given this special constitutional status. And this is what doesn't make sense, as we'll go into some detail on this, because abortion isn't in the Constitution. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says that the states cannot legislate on abortion. So Alito is saying, well, then let the states do their job.
Right.
Why should public policy that affects you and me and our children and grandchildren be determined by unelected judges, unaccountable justices on the court? Why? It'll do it through the elected. So Donna, that would be up to the states. And so the Right to Life League is with us. Thank you for being with us. If Roe is indeed overturned, the battle goes to the individual states. How can national pro-life organizations now pivot to support the numerous state pro-life organizations? Well, actually, yes. One is to bring attention to them and urge people, like we've been urging people, Janet, get to know your state legislators now.
Exactly.
And connect with your state groups, right?
Yeah.
But we should also point out, it doesn't take away the national role. It doesn't take away the role of the Congress, okay? Because Congress, according to what the court is doing here, would still be able to legislate on abortion. And of course, the national groups will have a role in advocating for that. So, you know what I think of it, Janet, as it's not so much a shift from the federal to the state as it is from the courts to the legislatures.
Right. And that's really what it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And what people have to realize, and really what that means is it goes back to the will of the people.
The will of the people.
The will of the people, because they elect either pro-life or pro-abortion politicians based on their beliefs. Right. That's who they support. It all goes back to our whole thing about voting pro-life.
Yeah.
From the town, from your town council to your school board, all these local positions. Where did Obama start? As a community organizer.
Community organizer.
I mean, you got to start on the small people there and work your way up.
Let's talk about why this might have happened. This is unprecedented.
Right.
I mean, actually, go back to the early 70s. In the case of Roe v. Wade, there was a leak. And the movie Roe v. Wade, we were involved in bringing that about, tells the story of the leak when the justices had their first vote on the Roe v. Wade decision. It was going in the direction of pro-life. right? Upholding the Texas law. Some of the justices didn't like that, and they leaked to the not any written opinion. This is a first for a whole opinion to be leaked like this. But they leaked not the opinion, but they leaked the outcome of the vote in the hopes of doing what? Stirring up the people to pressure the court so that maybe at least one justice would change his or her mind. What could be happening here? What could be happening is they're getting close to issuing the decision. The folks on the inside see it's going the wrong way for them. Okay, it's going to strike down Roe v. Wade. They're starting to get desperate. Okay, because their efforts to persuade the justices internally haven't been working.
Right.
So they say, you know what? Let's just burn the whole thing down. Let's get this out and cause so much public unrest. Now, who knows what kind of threats these justices are receiving and their families.
Right.
And now this stirs it all up, because it's one thing for a decision to be leaked after it's been made, but before it's been published. It's another thing for it to be leaked before the final decision. In other words, justices could still change their minds. And that's the pressure tactic here that may be apparently is going on.
Well, and we also have to look at Chief Justice Roberts, because I'm sure walking into that building this morning,
he was not a happy camper.
No, because he's got a clean house now. Because no one can feel confident right now in anything.
It's bad.
It's very bad. I mean, I want to know if they're going to get the IT department in there and scrub all the computers to see.
Well, there's got to be some
sort
investigation.
of investigation.
Yeah. Somebody was asking, would the FBI get involved? And so I don't know. So someone is asking, what did I do when I heard the leaked opinion? I had just gotten off a prayer call about the Dobbs case.
Right.
Every Monday night, there's a little prayer call at 8:30, which is right around the time that the Politico thing was posted, with Marjorie Dannenfelser of Susan B. Anthony list. We had about 100 people or more from around the country praying about the Dobbs case. And no sooner did I hang up from that call, I texted Marjorie and I said, hey, good job. It was great to be on the prayer call with you. And then she texts me back a very unusual message. She says, news, checking into it. And I said, what does she mean by that? So right after that, I got a text from one of our close associates saying, leaked opinion on overturn of Roe v. Wade. And then the night began.
Oh, yeah.
The night began. And I grabbed it and I read through it and I was answering questions from people that were calling and so forth. So, but like you're saying, I mean, I want to bring up a point here about the abortion distortion. So you're saying, I mean, this is no less than an attack on the court, right?
Well, it is.
The leak, that is.
The leak is an attack on our judicial system.
Right.
I mean, when you think about it, Father, there's been a lot of different decisions lately that we as Catholics and Christians, we didn't agree on gay marriage.
That's right.
But you didn't see anything leaked and craziness. We didn't, when the gay marriage decision by the court upheld gay marriage, we weren't there clawing at the door of the court.
Yeah.
We weren't protesting and going crazy. We were sad, continued to pray, said we still won't accept it. But, this is an attack of our government, because what's happened right now is the left has gone so far off to the left.
Yes.
They really want a socialist, Marxist kind of government.
And they want to impose.
Yes, they want to impose.
Their radical.
And they want to silence anyone that does not.
So therefore, they don't respect the process, because the process
right.
is meant to give everyone a voice.
Exactly.
No matter how contentious the issue is, the process we have, and this includes court procedures, it includes Senate procedures, it includes the filibuster, it includes the Electoral College. These are all built-in safeguards in the wisdom of our founders that allow the minority voice to have a voice. No matter how contentious the issue is, you don't shut down the people you disagree with. Okay. But the other side has proven time and time again that they disrespect the process, that on this issue of abortion especially, the volatility of the issue overruns the boundaries according to which the issue is supposed to be debated.
Right.
We've seen this time and time again. It's called the abortion distortion. Over all these decades that we've been involved in pro-life work, we've seen it over and over. what it means is that all the rules change when it comes to abortion. Even within this decision, it points this out, that things like, for example, there was one little example, third party representation. In other words, can an abortionist go into court and claim to be representing the women that he or she does the abortions on? Normally this kind of third party standing is not recognized by the courts unless you have some kind of substantial, intimate relationship with the person who's you are claiming to represent.
Right.
The abortionist doesn't have that kind of relationship with these women. They're strangers. So the point is that, but in the context of abortion, the court allows it.
Right.
You see, and over again, the court mentions even again in this
and
First Amendment issues.
If you talk about our founding fathers and the Constitution, what people don't realize, and I only knew this because I did some research for my newest book, Everything You Need to Know About Abortion for Teens. I did some research, and do people realize that abortion was legal in some colonies and illegal in other colonies? We had 13 founding colonies, and they were split. So guess what? If the founding fathers, in other words, the abortion thing wasn't settled even back in colonial days. So if they thought there should be a right to abortion, then that's when they would have.
Where was it?
Where was it? They
See,
didn't put it in the Constitution.
All right. So look, this is.
But yet the right to life is there.
This is what Alito goes into in detail in this opinion. Okay. And I want to urge you folks, read this opinion. He talks about the history. Just like you researched for your book, which, by the way, did you tell people about your book?
Oh, let me hold it up, Father.
Everything you need to know.
Everything you need to know about abortion for
teens.
And for adults, too. You will learn. They can just go to abortionandteens.com, place an order. I'll autograph it for you. I mean, if you really, really want to know about the history of how do we get to Roe v. Wade, I paint it all in here. Like I said, I go back. And then here's the best part, Father. Look at this. A photo album of the baby starting at 7 weeks. So the baby has its own little photo album here. So I'd love to send everyone an autographed copy. Everything you need to know about abortion for teens, available at abortionandteens.com.
But let's talk about the history, and then we'll take some more questions.
Right.
Alito goes into the fact that, look, you look back we got the common law from England.
Right.
The common law protected the unborn.
Right.
We inherited it in the colonies. There was no right to abortion. And then in the 1800s, the laws started getting codified against abortion. Now, like you point out, they were different in different colonies. Some of them, made it a crime after quickening because that's when you had evidence that there was life inside. Now we know the baby moves around after 6 weeks of development,
and
not 4 months.
Heart starts beating at 21
days.
Yeah.
But the point is that the codification of these laws was a codification of existing policy, not new law. So we look at the question, was there a right to life in our nation's history, or was there a right to abortion? Even though the policies from colony to colony and eventually state to state had variations, abortion was not considered a constitutional right.
No, never.
And that is a key argument for striking down Roe v. Wade, because first of all, the word abortion is not in the Constitution.
Right.
Remember that episode from Law and Order?
Yes.
Who was it? Was it Fred Thompson?
Fred Thompson. He takes the copy like of the Constitution off the wall and he holds it and he says, "There's no right to abortion in our Constitution." Yeah,
where in here do you find it? Right. He's talking to Sam Waterston, right?
Right. Yeah.
So Law and Order, that's classic. It's not in there.
Right.
So what the other side will try to do, and what they have done in these arguments in this case and in other cases, has said, okay, no, it's not in the text of the Constitution, but it's still a constitutional right. But the court has told us that if you have a constitutional right, it's not in the text, it has to be in the history and traditions of the country. Alito goes through that history and tradition, says, you know what? It's not there. It's not there. And then they say, oh, it's in the 14th Amendment because they talk about you can't take away liberty. Well, it's not there either. Because when the states ratified the 14th Amendment, that was in 1868, there were already all these laws against abortion. In fact, 3/4 of the states at that point in time protected the unborn baby, not just after quickening, not just after viability, but throughout pregnancy. So how can a state ratify the 14th Amendment thinking that it has a right to abortion, and at the same time be passing and upholding laws that prohibit abortion. It's not there. And Alito makes this powerful case here in detail. Now, Roe v. Wade's history was garbage. They relied on the attorney for the pro-abortion side for one of the pro-abortion groups to talk about the history. It was unprecedented, the historical theories he was bringing forward, and it's been debunked since then. So Roe's history is it's non-existent. Alito goes into the history, and he says, look, there is no right to abortion. It's only when you get up to the time of Roe v. Wade that you start seeing courts talking about it. There were no judicial or legislative evidence of this before that. So,
well, and Father, I saw some people asking, how do we know, in fact, that this draft is genuine, that this is Alito's writing?
Yeah.
And I think I've already heard a few experts on the media say, if you look at his other writings, it's his style.
No.
Right?
Yeah. What you have to understand is we, and even more so the legal experts in the court, we've read hundreds and hundreds of these kinds of documents. The documents have a very, very specific way. And not only does this conform exactly to the arguments of this case, but it's and the format of Supreme Court opinions, but it's exactly Alito's style.
Right.
His arguments, his priorities. It reflects what he was saying in the oral arguments. This is authentic. And everybody who knows this stuff and reads through it, and I've read the briefs in the Dobbs case, and when I read through this last night, I said, it's perfect. It's perfectly in.
Well,
so
there can
be very little doubt that this is an actual.
I feel my heart goes out to the justices and their families, because I can imagine they got very little sleep last night.
Well, yeah.
And to be honest, if I was married to Justice Alito, I would have called security this morning and asked for a police escort.
Well, I wouldn't be
take
surprised
him to the court. I mean, I would be, because they were already, the pro-aborts were already picketing outside of Clarence Thomas's home and others. They were already swarming around them and creating pressure. So I think we, as a nation, we have to be praying for all the justices, really, right now, because we are in a constitutional crisis right now. I hope people realize that.
Well, friends, go to SupremeCourtVictory.com. You can study this case in great detail, and we'll put up there the link to the Politico article where you can actually find this document. Right. You can print it out too, and so forth. So there was one question.
Yeah, someone's asking, where do we think the states stand on the issue today? Well, there's more states that have protection for the unborn than don't.
Yes.
With the laws that are in place. I mean,
momentum has been on our side.
It has been on our side, but there has been states like, for instance, Louisiana is one I know off the top of my head, but a bunch others that said they already passed what they call trigger laws. That said, when Roe v. Wade is overturned, abortion will be 100% illegal, no exceptions in our state.
Yeah, and basically have a 20-20-10 split right now, as far as like. If this becomes which it seems like it's on the track to becoming the dominant opinion here in this case, and the states can do what they want on abortion, you're going to have about 20, 21 states where the unborn are going to have some serious protection. And we've been seeing states moving in that direction right here in Florida. We just had Governor DeSantis sign the 15-week bill, just like Mississippi.
Right.
Protecting babies, right? Oklahoma's been going wild.
Oklahoma just passed a bill too, saying that abortion is going to be illegal in their state.
A number of other states,
and of course, on the sad end, we have
New Jersey, where your former home. They've been bad governor.
They put abortion in their constitution. Let's see, California, New York up till birth, California, Vermont, Illinois,
Maryland is trying
the solidly blue states, they're going to enshrine abortion in their state, some way or sound. But then all the other ones will have, like you said, some will be 100% pro-life, others varying degrees.
And I want people to push back on this phrase about codifying Roe. In fact, someone was just asking about that. If Congress codified Roe, would it be illegal? Congress can do this, but first of all, they don't have the votes. But secondly, it's not codifying Roe, what these states like New Jersey are doing, Colorado, California, because what they're saying is it's an absolute right. There should be no limitations, not even very popular limitations like parental involvement laws, or no taxpayer funding for abortion, or even abortion clinic regulations. They want to wipe away every kind of regulation or limitation on abortion. You know what? Roe v. Wade didn't say that.
Right.
In fact, Roe v. Wade went out of its way to say, number one, that the right to an abortion is not absolute. That number two, there is an interest that the state has in protecting that life in the womb, whatever you end up calling it. And it has an interest in protecting the health of the mother. And that abortion is inherently a medical decision is made by the physician. These laws like New Jersey and these other states are passing, they don't say that. They don't. In fact, Roe v. Wade even allowed for the states to prohibit abortion in the final months of pregnancy. Now, later on, the court, threw out that trimester framework. But when the Democrats say we want to codify Roe, either they don't know what they're talking about, which is a very, very real possibility.
That's very real.
Or they're deliberately trying to deceive people, because Roe v. Wade is Roe v. Wade is completely unreasonable, but in comparison to these laws that they're trying to push of unlimited abortion, it's very reasonable. Well, it's very different.
I have to tell you, Father, when I stayed up late last night too, watching all the reports, but when I woke up this morning, you know what my first thought was? Well, Norma, we did it.
Norma McCorvey,
the Jane Roe, Roe v. Wade. As you know, we spoke to her right before she died, within an hour of her death. And we promised her that we would continue the fight, we would continue the work to see that in our lifetime, Roe v. Wade would be overturned. So when I woke up this morning, I looked up like this and I said, okay, Norma, it's done. Yeah. It's going to be gone.
I've been saying for many years, I said, mark my words, we, not some future generation, we will see the end of Roe v. Wade. And we've been saying that for many years.
Quite a long time. And when you think about it too, not having Roe, the quote, quote, law of the land out there, I know for a fact from the Silent No More Awareness campaign, it's going to save babies. It's also going to save women.
Oh, from the pain. The distress.
So many of these women said, if it wasn't legal, I wouldn't have considered it.
That's right.
If it wasn't legal, how many parents would not have dragged their daughter off for an abortion or suggested it?
Exactly. We have Mary Jane Camilleri asking a question. We know Mary Jane.
We know Mary Jane. Hi, Mary Jane.
Does it make sense to you that there be a constitutional amendment which explicitly protects human life in the womb? Answer from a theoretical view and then from a political view. So a constitutional amendment is the ultimate goal.
That's a goal
of our movement. So this is a step. Reversing Roe is a step towards the goal.
In the right direction. And also, too, wanting what's called the Human Life Amendment. First of all, that was at the heart and basis of the founder, Nellie Gray, of the March for Life.
That's right.
That's what they believed in, those founders of the March for Life from the very, when Roe v. Wade existed, they right away wanted a Human Life Amendment. That was in their heart. It's even in the Republican Party platform.
It is.
That's the ultimate. The ultimate goal is a Human Life Amendment.
Yeah.
So, is that a great idea? Absolutely.
Well, it's also a goal articulated by the United States Catholic bishops, too, in their pastoral plan for pro-life activities. Because you know what it is? Okay. It's the ultimate way in our American system of government to secure any particular right.
Right.
The ultimate way is to declare it in the Constitution. Now, there's two ways of going about this. One is the amendment process is a steep hill to climb.
Right.
You've got to have 2/3 of both houses of Congress and 3/4 of the states. That's a lot of consensus among the American people. And the founders purposely made it hard to do. And that's why, by the way, and Alito points this out in this draft decision, that when it comes to questions of whether the Supreme Court has correctly interpreted the Constitution, because the only other way of clarifying whether something is or isn't a constitutional right is to amend the Constitution, and that's a high hill to climb, we have to be ready to correct our mistakes. You see, in other words, people say, oh, well, Roe v. Wade's been in place such a long time, you have to reaffirm it. No, that's not the doctrine of the court. You don't have to reaffirm it just because it's in place a long time. In fact, if it's wrong constitutionally, you have to correct it.
Well, and Father, that's our history. At one time, it was legal to have slavery. At one time, it was legal for women not to vote.
And so segregation, right?
So all that, those were steep hills to climb that eventually were overcome.
The Supreme Court corrects an erroneous constitutional interpretation,
right?
Or you got to have a constitutional amendment. And that's why they say that this stare decisis, this let things stand the way the court has decided them. There's an important value there. Okay, there's an important meaning to that, but it's at its weakest when it comes to these core constitutional questions. Not everything a court decides is a constitutional question. The courts are deciding disputes between people, who say they've been injured in a certain way by the government. Okay, but constitutional questions. You look at stare decisis, but it's not a command, an inexorable decree. You've got to be able to change if you recognize, wait a minute, this doesn't, like Alito was saying here, there's no right to abortion in the Constitution. Let the political bodies work it out. So then Mary Jane goes on to the question of, well, what about politically? Politically, the support isn't there yet for a constitutional amendment. No. But that's okay. We're working towards that.
Exactly.
I
mean, that's the final goal.
Yeah.
And we just keep working. I mean, obviously, the first goal was to get rid of Roe v. Wade. So once that,
it looks like we're about to do that.
And people have to understand, it's not done yet. It's not completed. No. This was a draft leak.
A leak. It should not have happened.
It should not have happened. They have not issued their decision or the formal document yet.
That's right.
That's yet to happen. So that's why we have to keep praying. This is not a done deal. But the first goal was, if we get rid of Roe v. Wade, then it goes back to the states. And now, someone else I think asked, will this affect the midterm election? Of course it's going to, because it's going to. Well, if you ask me, Father, if someone were to give me the prediction here, this was definitely a liberal Democrat who leaked this. Someone within the court, that were a clerk, because they're looking at the news cycle. Biden's ruling rate is going this, right? The country we're about to go into a recession. Gas is through the roof, food through the roof, supply issues. I mean, and then of course is the war in Ukraine. I mean, there's just so many problems that every poll you look at says the Republicans are going to romp in November and take back the House and increase the Senate and so forth and so on. So if you ask me, the liberals are getting desperate. And when they get desperate, they try anything.
It's an act of desperation.
It's an act of desperation. First of all, look what they've accomplished. They changed the news cycle. Yesterday, before this happened, the news cycle was all about Biden's numbers, the war in Ukraine, the economy, inflation, the interest rates about to go up. That was the news cycle. What did they do? They changed the news cycle now, didn't they? And they feel this will now, because I think there were some Democratic voters too who were switching, that they were going to support Republicans now. They actually had them on the news, people switching over to the Republican Party. So what's going to happen now? Well, all these people who want to keep abortion, that's going to gin them up to get out and vote. I think that's what this is, a tactic to get.
Well, my challenge to the other side is make your case. They don't want to describe what they defend. So make your case. You think dismembering a baby is okay?
Right.
Show it to us.
Show America what an abortion is.
Show it to us.
Show it.
As a matter of fact,
they can go. We have a
let's let the camera focus on you for a minute. I'm going to get some. Let's get the board that shows the abortion diagrams. I think it's right there.
Look at abortion. And they can go to lookatabortion.com, right?
Look at abortion. Yes, that's right.
Lookatabortion.com. We have a webpage.
Here, friends.
Okay,
take a good look at this.
The Democrats won't show you this.
No. But this is what they support. So this is what, we want Roe v. Wade. We want Roe v. Wade. You want Roe v. Wade? This is what you want. This is what you want. In fact, let me bring it closer to the camera. This is what you want. This is what an abortion does. This is a medical diagram showing literally the dismemberment of the baby piece by piece. And my goodness, I mean, how can any civilized person allow this or agree with this or think that this is constitutional. There it is. I mean, this is what it is, brothers and sisters. So yeah. So we have to keep showing the people. But all right, well, let's look at some of these other questions. Let's see what a couple of these other ones. Will the person who leaked it be found? Well, we hope so.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Well, like I said earlier, Father,
yeah.
well, first of all, they have to first find who the person is. And I have a hunch they're going to have to check everyone's computer system there to see outgoing emails and all that. And they could find out from what computer it came from, that this was sent. This had to have been passed electronically, Father, right? I mean, that's how this was leaked. So some computer within that Supreme Court building, somebody pressed the button and leaked it.
Yeah.
And then if that person is a lawyer, because a lot of the clerks are attorneys, they're in their beginning of their career.
Right.
If it's an attorney, they will be automatically disbarred, 100%. And if any other charges can be brought against them, I don't know. That's for the courts to figure that part out. But
somebody said, how will this affect the midterms? The other side is going to try to say the Supreme Court is taking away our right to abortion. That's not what's happening.
No.
The Supreme Court is throwing it back to the people, both on the federal and the state lawmaking level, to decide to work out the competing arguments.
Whether abortion is legal or illegal is not the decision of the courts, but the decision of the
people. Okay. So in that sense, it can help the midterms quite a bit. That first of all, we expose it and we say to people, here's what the Democrats stand for.
Right.
Because the Democrats don't want people to see these diagrams. They don't want people to hear a description of abortion. So if this inflames the debate, which it's obviously doing, and pro-life people, including pro-life candidates, are not afraid to describe abortion, it will help the midterms. Pro-life is a winning issue. We have seen that in electoral politics in America. Some candidates get bad advice and they're told, oh, well, yeah, you say you're pro-life, but then quickly change the subject and go off to another issue.
Well, it's something that President Trump didn't shy away from when he was debating Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
In that last debate, he was the first time, I was cheering. He was the first time a candidate said, oh, well, you're for ripping a baby apart.
Ripped them from the womb.
Ripped them from the womb.
Yeah. 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
And that's what the Democrats are for, abortion to birth. And so you got to call them out on it and say it is what it is.
Here's a very good question from Iris. Father, you said this is the first step in the right direction. What is the next step? Do we get to vote pro-life? The next step after the court takes what the court is doing here, again, if this becomes the actual opinion, is taking away the obstacle for the lawmakers to actually protect the unborn. And prohibit abortion.
And protect the mothers.
So the next step is to get those laws in place, both on the state and the federal level. So we have to get to know our state legislators, work with them, advance pro-life legislation in the states and in the Congress so that more and more and more babies are actually protected under the law in more and more circumstances.
And Father, just at the federal level alone, this is going to really help. There's all kinds of legislation that's been sitting in the hopper there. And and if we increase the House and the Senate in the midterms, well, the Born Alive bill.
All right, so let's let a few of the steps in the Congress. Born Alive, start by protecting babies who survive abortion.
Right.
Okay.
That bill could come out of the hopper and be signed into law.
No taxpayer funding for abortion.
Right.
Okay.
Fetal pain was another one.
Protecting babies. Well, see, then they have to decide at what limit are we going to put abortion on the federal level? Because right now there is no federal law that stops abortion at any time in pregnancy. People should ponder that for a moment. There is no, if a healthy mother carrying a healthy baby wants to get an abortion the day before birth, there's no federal law that prohibits that.
Right.
No federal law. So the federal lawmakers need to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to do what Mississippi did? They could. 15 weeks, what Florida just did. Okay, this is becoming more popular. Because now, I mean, the court is saying, with this opinion, by the way, Janet, the court doesn't just say that 15 weeks is constitutional. They're saying the states can protect all the babies from the beginning.
Right, whatever they want.
So that's but on the federal level, realistically.
Well, the problem we have on the federal level too right now, Father, is we have a pro-abortion president. So even if we get it, the House and the Senate to pass it, this is why we have to get a super majority.
Right.
Because even if Biden vetoes it, they can override a veto. But
but do you have enough? We don't have enough right now.
We don't have enough right now.
If the November midterms are so dramatic that we were to get a super majority in the House, which is quite possible, in the Senate it's a lot harder. But if that were to happen, you'd be looking at veto override. Yeah,
veto override. So that's to me why we have got to get out and vote for this election. Everyone should be, check myvoterregistration.com, make sure your registration is intact. And we've got to get out and vote because we could make a huge difference for the unborn and protection and their mothers.
Let's look at some of the other questions that are coming in. And thank you everybody for your participation and in all of this. Let's see some of these questions. Give us a second here to look at them. Okay, we saw those. Is any country so polarized over abortion as ours? Well, I worked at the Vatican for a while, and European leaders used to come and sit with us and talk. And they said, oh, you guys in America, pro-life, pro-choice, and you go out on the streets and it's a big battle. And in the elections, we have the battle, but, we're more quiet about it. So a lot of nations, all nations have this battle to one extent or another. But a lot of them are more, I don't know, the battle is more quiet.
Well, but the other thing, too, we have to point out, Father, is America, we are the most extreme country in the world on abortion. Because most of Europe only allows abortion in the first trimester.
That's right. Weeks. Yeah. We're in the company of
China, North Korea,
right?
Vietnam. Like all these communist nations, they're partnering with us. They're going, oh yeah, we want to do what America does.
So when you combine that extreme policy with the American spirit of free speech, protest, freedom of assembly, redress of grievances against the government, we got a strong tradition of standing up for what's right, even when the government gets it wrong. We're probably the most volatile on this issue.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see what else. My church has a pro-life group. I want to get involved. Where can I start? So good.
Well, start by first of all prayer. I always tell everybody, if you want to get the church active, start with them praying for abortion.
Rosaries for life. Adoration.
But let's remind them, Father, because this is a thing that does not get mentioned enough. Brothers and sisters, the bishop's pastoral plan for pro-life activity actually says that in the intentions, the prayer and intentions of the faithful, there must be one petition for life.
Yes.
At every single mass.
Yes.
And I'm sure many of you don't even hear that. So there's one thing you could do, point it out to the priest.
And they could get the petitions from us.
Yes, on our website.
ProLifeLiturgy.com.
We have them there.
Yep.
So at every mass, you're supposed to hear a prayer to end abortion, or a praying for the mothers considering an abortion, praying for the babies that might be aborted tomorrow.
For a culture of life.
Culture of life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's supposed to be mentioned at every mass as one of the intentions. So that's step one. And then, like we just said, what about having a rosary for life? And once you get people praying for an end to abortion, then they're at least thinking about it, and then you can get them activated. And I always tell them, if you want to see, because a lot of people think, oh, not in my neighborhood. Oh, we don't have abortion happening in my area. Yeah, I'm sure you do. You just have to go and see where the nearest abortion mill is,
One of the ways, too, for a parish pro-life group to get started is to connect with the local pregnancy centers in the community, find out what they're doing, what help they need, and how we can publicize, get the priest over there to see it in person, and how we can publicize the center through the parish means of communication. That's very important.
That is.
And that's very fruitful.
And also, too, messages for those who've had abortions. We have that webpage, abortionforgiveness.com. They put in their zip code. They see where the nearest Rachel's Vineyard or other healing ministries are. So again, when you're talking about abortion, you're also saying we're not condemning those who've had abortions. We're here to have a hand of hope and healing for them too.
Exactly. Why do the left love to murder babies? Isn't that a good question?
Well, everything on the left is puzzling. Like, for example, as you know, Father, I'm a former public school teacher. Why do all the teachers union back pro-abortion candidates? Why? When I left my job in New York City in the year 2000, and they gave me my little goodbye lunch, I said to them all, I said, well, I'm leaving my teaching job so I can provide you all with some job security. And they were, what do you mean, Janet? I said, well, because if you keep aborting the children, your class size is going to go down and some of you are going to lose a job. It's an irony, Father, isn't it? That they support abortion-loving candidates every single time. It's amazing.
On one level, it's an alliance with the abortion industry. Murdering these babies leads to a lot of profit for a lot of people, including the selling of the body parts, and it's a very lucrative industry. And that money goes back where? That money goes into the candidates of the campaigns of the Democrat candidates. Yeah. So there's that.
So, Father, here's a question they keep asking: will Pelosi and Biden ever get excommunicated for their position on abortion? But we have a great brochure you just wrote about politicians and abortion, and they can get that at our online store at Pro-Life Products. You go through all the points about politicians.
Yeah, ask the bishops.
Ask the bishops, exactly.
No, they the leadership today in the church is very unwilling to punish. Very unwilling. Oh, except for punishing priests that are pro-life.
Right.
With that exception. Yeah, they'll punish me before they punish Biden.
Right.
The school boards, the school boards supporting abortion is a deep contradiction.
That's right.
A deep contradiction. So this is an historic day.
It is, certainly.
This is a powerful document. We will see now what the court is going to do. If they are ready to issue their decision, let them issue it. If they need more time, let them take more time. The court should not be pressured. Yeah. It's a draft. The court should not be pressured. Let's pray now that the justices that are ready and willing to reverse Roe v. Wade will stay the course.
Yep.
That's the key. Stay the course, not be distracted, not be intimidated. Right. Let us pray. And friends, again, go to SupremeCourtVictory.com, sign up, get the information, stay in contact with us there. Let us pray. Father, we ask you to send the Holy Spirit upon the justices of the Supreme Court. And as this story blows up all over the country, all over the world, keep them focused. Keep them focused on finishing this decision, on getting it out, and keep those who are convinced of what is right on the path of judging according to what is right, sticking with their decision and keeping that decision based, Lord, not on public pressure or confusion, but on the Constitution of the United States, which they are sworn to uphold. We ask all this in the name of Jesus the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for the discussion, Janet.
Thank you,
Thanks
Father.
for the discussion, friends. All your questions and comments, SupremeCourtVictory.com. And we'll be back to you as these events unfold during these days with much more commentary. God bless you.